Hello everybody and welcome to the May 2023 update from Clydebridge station. We begin this month's update with some very sad news. At the end of April we learnt that the legendary railway photographer Brian Morrison, a name synonymous with railway magazines for many years, sadly passed away at the age of 93. Brian had been active as a railway photographer for nearly 70 years. His name was very familiar to people who read the then Ian Allan titles in the 1970s, 80s and 90s in particular. Brian was from Kent and lived for the latter part of his life in Sidcup in Kent, but he was well known throughout the whole of the UK for his excellent photos. When Motive Power Monthly started as the retitled Modern Railways Illustrated magazine, Brian was a regular contributor to that, and then he retired from his job in 1988 to become the staff photographer for Motive Power Monthly. Only occasionally did Brian's photos reach the front cover, and this is actually one of them here. Brian remained in that position as staff photographer at Motive Power Monthly magazine while still contributing to other titles as well. And he continued in his role of contributing to Ian Allan and other titles after Motive Power Monthly ceased publication in December 1991. As well as being a photographer, he wrote many articles for magazines, including Motive Power, and he edited some of the Motive Power annuals, which later became Motive Power Review. There were 4 of them in total. And his colleague Les Nixon, who himself is a legend in rail photography, edited as well. This was actually Brian's last work, I believe, and it's actually a Christmas present I got off my cousin last year. And it shows photos that he's taken of steam engines in Scotland and steam trains in Scotland in the 50s and 60s. And as that came out just last year anyway, so that would probably be Brian's last work. Brian was part of a legendary quartet of rail photographers in the 70s, 80s and 90s, whose photos dominated the Ian Allan titles and indeed other magazines as well. Les Nixon, the late Ian S. Carr and Gavin Morrison, no relation to Brian. But Brian was the one who stood out there on his own and everybody looked up to him. It's hard to believe that we'll no longer have any photos from Brian Morrison, but the photos that he did take were absolutely superb and they present a great picture and serve us as great memories of a bygone age of the railways. Condolences to Brian's family and friends. In this month's update, we're going to be taking a look at the second part of the work on redoing the retail park area, which will also include a rebuilt garden centre for B&Q using parts and items from Scale Model Scenery and West Hill Wagon Works. And we'll also be seeing if we could add a couple more people to that area as well. I'll also be showing you how to make a very cheap and easy uncoupling device based upon an idea that I saw Steve Gillott do as well. And I've got a new locomotive for you as well for the layout. Yes, another one. I think this will be the last one, he says. There'll be usual shout outs to layouts throughout the video as well and to other people not connected to the railways. And as usual, we'll start off with the 2 who influenced me in getting back into the railways, into model railways, and indeed who got me to base my layout in the BR sectorisation era. Richard Warren at Everard Junction, David Watson at Dean Park Station. Their 2 layouts, Everard Junction and Dean Park Station, are here on YouTube. So please go and check them out and everybody else that you're about to see. So without further ado, All aboard and enjoy the programme. Well, this is the stuff that we're going to be using this month on doing the rest of the retail park. I previously had this down here, but I took it up, and I'm going to be reusing that again, chain link security fencing, when I come to redo the garden centre bit here of the B&Q store. Now, excuse me, I'm also going to be using pallets. You're already familiar with one of them in the waste ground on the street scene. This is modern pallet racking, like what you would find in a garden centre of say B&Q, and that's what's going to be sitting just in there later on. Piles of newspapers. What's that got to do with the retail park area? Well, I've got a little cunning plan here, because I'm not going to be needing all of these piles of newspapers for the vendor who's going to be sitting down there or over in the W.H. Smith down here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a couple of these newspaper bundles into loads that will sit on the pallets, that will sit on the pallet racking. That's going to be much later on, of course. It's no longer called grey board, it's called modelling card. I've actually picked the 2mm thick stuff rather than the 1mm thick stuff, but not to worry, we can still use it. And I'm going to show you how I'll be able to do that, because I've got a piece of 1mm thick modelling card left that I'll be able to use for this area here, and then we'll go to the 2mm thick stuff to make the steps down and along. Also got some sheets of slabs left that I'll have to use. These items are going to get reused. We'll only need one of the lamp posts that will sit there, and that one will be fine there, and the spare lamp post will get another use later on. And we've got paper as well, card rather. This is from Ryman's, and what I'm going to be doing with that is printing the back scene off, the street view scene off that'll go along the back here, and that's where we'll be going next. So as I say, you're going to see all of these on the layout in this month's update. First thing we need to do now is to go up to the house and get onto the laptop and get the street view image chosen that will go along here, and there'll also have to be one for along here as well. And once I've got all that done, I'll come back down here and then we'll get it put up. A couple of shout outs for you, and give West Blythe MPD a check out, set in the northeast of England, and also give a check out to the usual two suspects who inspired me to get back into railway modelling years ago. Richard Warren with Everard Junction, David Watson with Dean Park Station, so give them a check out. And no, I haven't bought anything from B&Q for building this garden centre up. I do apologise to Block and Quail in advance. This is what I've chosen as my street view image. This is the St Nicholas Gate Retail Park in Carlisle, and the Tyne Valley route from Carlisle to Newcastle. The railway line for that actually runs just to the bottom side of it, down that way. Going to be 3 pieces of paper to cover 3 images, and I'll try and then join them together to make it into one. And as you'll notice this time, I've chosen to put the car park in for the simple reason I want to add a little bit of depth to it, so that there's a visible car park there and the road further away. It wouldn't look right just to have the road just to the side of it. People might also argue that the retail park with only about 2 or 3 units or 4 units is pretty small, and it's too small. The Bathgate Retail Park only has 3 units in it. So, to me, a retail park can be any size, big or small. And this one's fairly big. As this is the St Nicholas Gate Retail Park, which is on London Road in Carlisle, and behind the camera we've got Asda Poundland. There used to be a Focus DIY there at one time as well, by the way. Now that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to get 3 different images printed off, and then we'll look at them. Now, I must make a very important point. I don't know how the ink is going to hold up in the printer, so it may be the case that this will have to be done over a few days. But anyway, we'll start getting printed, and then we'll take a look at what we've got from there. And as I say, this is Google Street View, which you're already familiar with. And the idea for this came from another layout here on YouTube that I want you to check out, Shrewford. That's the Street View image there now in place. It'll be at the back of the garden centre. And you'll notice that the surface there has been damaged when I've removed the old wall. But I'm not worried about that because obviously I've got the modelling card. Let's get this right, modelling card. With the slabs on it, and that'll be going down there and along there. So this B&Q will come back out again. There we go. The 1mm thick stuff will actually be going just up and along here, and then I've got some steps down. That's where the 2mm thick stuff will actually end there. It's given me time to actually think about how I'm going to do the other bit here. I've still got to try and plan that out. But what I have noticed by zooming out a bit, if I put B&Q back in there for a minute, you can actually see on here that the buildings get hidden behind the B&Q. So there's actually quite a possibility that I might not need to have too much of a street view image there. Something to actually think about. I may actually have to choose a different retail park to do that with. The Google Word there, I can't do much about that. It's just one of those things, but it might get hidden later on. I'll get the slabs into place now, get that, the first bit of that cut, and get that all the way along there. And this wall here will have to come off temporarily. That'll actually go back on though, believe it or not. And then what we'll do is we'll take it from there, and I'll explain to you about what's going to go next on there. Whilst I'm here, quick shout out to Craig, who's got a layout, New Durham Junction, here on YouTube, so go and check him out. And also quick shout out to my mate Andrew Wedge with his layout, Town Hill Junction, which you'll find on Facebook and YouTube, so go and check those 2 out please. As the slab's in place, and I've now got B&Q back in place. At some point in the future I'll get some scale model scenery drain pipes and put that down on the B&Q and the Halfords as well, but not right now. I've took off the wall that I've got here, and I'll take that bit off at a later point. You'll notice that it's taken away some of the back scene image. Not a problem, because obviously I'll be putting a street view image on there, God knows what though. And I've got a little bit of grey board I need to put on there. No, it's not called grey board, it's called modelling card. Justin Noble will be strangling me if I keep calling it grey board, but anyway. And then I've got the 1mm modelling card to put around here to the steps, which will make 2mm. And then, that area will then be all slabbed over and ready for whatever else it needs to go down. We'll come to that later on, because we're going to get onto this next bit here, and we're going to use the chain link security fencing. Well, this is the chain link security fencing that is made by Scale Model Scenery, and links to all the stuff that I've used from West Hill Wagon Works and Scale Model Scenery will be in the description below. This was on the old garden centre at the back area there, and it was also used to be run along the front here of the depot, albeit unsuccessfully. What I'm going to do this time, however, is do it properly. We have 2 gates here, and we have the whole kit here, and what I'm going to do is build it in such a way that it will now be done properly, and we'll have one bit coming to here, and there'll be a small walkway at the end here to take you into the retail park, because that's actually a fire exit and it would be a quicker way to go there. How I propose to do this is to get one set of chain link fencing built with the double gates here to allow access to the garden centre and build it along. Then, and only then, will I put the actual chain link on, and then we'll reinstate the B&Q sign that's in the garden centre. These will then get built to sit in the garden centre area. We'll get a couple of pallets painted blue and get them on to the top and bottom of the racking. We'll put some loads onto the pallets as well, and then after that we'll get once that's done, we'll get chain link fencing along here, which will also include a small fire exit here as well. The chain link fencing is not easy to do, let me assure you of that right now, but it's an absolute necessity for this job. So what I'm going to do is get the packet open first of all, and then talk you through the next stage of it. It's very difficult to pick out on here, I know, but these are the two gate posts for the large gates. What I've got to do is take these into the big shed and spray them grey. I'm going to use a Halford's grey primer. Previously I painted them silver once they were in situ, and that is not the correct procedure. That'll take several minutes to dry, and I also notice that I've got two small gates, so I could have two fire exits, one here and one here. In addition to all of this, the actual chain link fencing at the back is not going to be stuck onto the back, so it's going to be set back from the back scene a little bit. And then I'll then be able to apply the actual link fencing after that. The first thing that's got to be done is get the gates and the gate posts put in, given their spray paint. That's, believe it or not, the easy bit. They're away drying now, so it gives me a chance to show you these next two bits. This is the fishing wire, which actually goes over the top there. It says on the instructions, cut short lengths of fishing wire, this is optional, cut short lengths of fishing wire and glue into the grooves on the top of each gate to represent barbed wire. Note this takes a steady hand and lots of patience, and then glue the gates into position as shown. The way you need to actually glue these gates in my opinion, is get the one, well for this anyway, get one gate post in there and glue the two gates into position and put another gate post on there. That of course has its own disadvantages, namely that you've got to create the hole to glue the first gate post into. And before I even glue the gate posts in, I've got to apply the mesh to them. Told you this wasn't easy. Richard Warren at Everard Junction describes this as a torture yourself kit, so I told you it wasn't going to be easy, this. Now the gaps for the holes for the actual fence itself, the fence post, should be 30 to 33 millimetres apart. Once I've got the gates into position, I'll then start doing that. That's just about 3 centimetres, about 1.5 inches if you're working in old money. Right, we're going to get on and have a look at how that fence post, the gate posts are, and the gates themselves as they've been sprayed, and then we'll take it from there. Well, that's the main gate posts and gates into position. I'm going to give you a little tip here, folks. If you've never built anything by scale model scenery before, don't start with the chain link security fencing kit. It requires a lot of skill, a hell of a lot of patience, and it's going to take you an enormous amount of time, and it's going to be a bit frustrating as well. Start with something easier and then move on to this later on. That alone has taken me 30 minutes just to get all that done, so that'll give you an indication of the difficulties you're going to face. And that includes the painting of them. The instructions say that you build the rest of the kit by putting making holes for the fence posts, or you can glue the fence post to the surface, which is what I'm actually going to have to do, because I'm going to have to take the bottom of the fence posts off and then glue them into position, for the simple reason I don't have the it's not very secure there to be able to drill. So I'm going to cut the bottoms of the fence posts off and then glue them into position, and a lot of that will all be then hidden later on by the pallet racking and the fencing on the other side. There's quite a novel way that the instructions tell you about how to actually get the actual chain link fence itself cut, and I'll show you that back in the shed along with the fence posts that I'm going to be gluing and painting. And while I'm trying to recover from this very complex operation, which might land me in hospital, but it'll be worth it in the end, I'm sure. Go and check out DJ Lee Butler on Twitter and also on YouTube and Facebook, one of the best DJs in Liverpool who worked with In Demand Radio. And also check out a gentleman called Honest Jones. He's a singer from London. I'll put the video right now up in the top right hand corner of his song Modest, so you can go and enjoy that. And staying on the musical theme, I want you to check out a gentleman called Hayden Haddock, an American country singer as well. And I'll bet none of them have ever built chain link fencing from scale model scenery before. I've got the fence posts, or 7 of them, drying at the moment, so while they're drying it gives me an opportunity to have a go at making these 2 pallet racks to sit along part of the garden centre. Now these are from West Hill Wagon Works. They don't actually come with any instructions, but looking at them they seem fairly easy to build. I would imagine you would need something like super glue to build these with, or laser cut kit glue, or Yoo-hoo glue. It looks like they do slot in together, so that's quite handy as well. Now what I'll do is I'll get these made up now, and then we'll get the fence posts in place, and then I'll put the wire in the fence posts, and then we'll get the mesh in, get them in. Now it is going to take a wee while, but trust me, it'll be worth it. Whilst you're actually studying, whilst I'm doing all of that, after you've seen this video, why not you give a check out to Barnabas Junction? That's my good mate Jason Griffiths that runs that layout. If you like DRS, and this layout is for you. Right, I'll go and get this made up, and we'll have a little look at it, and we'll see how good it is. That's the fence posts in place for the back of the garden centre, and a little useful tip for you: if you're working in a confined space and you can't get the measurements, so you're not able to get a measuring tape in there, a little tip I'll give you. I'll just put this on here so you can see what I mean. They recommend around about 32mm of a gap between the fence posts. So from that point there to this point here is about 30mm, 32mm, so it's a useful marker. I've also decided on the back anyway not to install the fishing wire. It's going to be hidden by the racking, and it's also going to be hidden by the sign as well, so I'm not going to bother it for the back. I'll have to do it for the front however. Oh god, that'll be fun. obviously corner posts will have to be dealt with differently, and the corner posts, I'm going to get one off the now for you so you can see what I mean. We'll have to sit something like that at an angle there. And then we'll have another post in there. So that's going to be another job later on. Now in terms of getting the mesh done that will sit on there, what I need to do is get some parcel tape, which I haven't got, so I think masking tape will have to suffice, and then stick some of the nylon mesh onto the tape, mark out a strip about 26mm tall, cut along that, and then take the tape off the mesh, hoping it doesn't get damaged, and then glue it onto there. This is not a 5-minute job, by the way. I mean, this is early afternoon and I've done a bit of gardening, and to get this bit done, these pillars into position and glued down, has took 20 odd minutes anyway. So as I say, this is not a 5-minute job. There we go, it's looking a little more like a B&Q now. That sign is sort of leaning against the back scene there, but there's not much I can do about that. But it's high enough so you can actually still see it, and the fencing will come around the other side and round here. We're a long way from getting the rest of the fencing installed, I can tell you, because I've got to load up the racking next, which is what we're going to be concentrating on next. I haven't put the fishing wire in, as I said, on there. It's not going to be seen. I might tackle it when we come to do the front. It's these pallets we're going to be dealing with next, West Hill Wagon Works pallets, and we'll get probably 4 of them sprayed blue, and then I'll get some loads put onto them, and I'll get them to sit on there. And it's looking like what a B&Q would look like in 1990 at the time this layout is set. Now, whilst I'm away to do that and spray the pallets blue, speaking of blue, the authentic blue jeans, Wrangler, my good friends at Wrangler, and I'm a proud ambassador for Wrangler. I'll put the link into our website for the UK in the description below. Other territories will have their own websites. So go and check us out, wrangler.co.uk. Got 4 of those pallets out at the moment getting spray painted. I'll put those 2 down there. They'll probably get a good use in the depot later on. Now I've got this gate out here. I've got one actually getting drying off at the moment. It's been spray painted grey. I'm going to show a little flaw in the plan. My original plan was to have it coming up there and running parallel with the building to provide a walkway along here, but I was thinking this here, the walkway would go up there, so that's why I've narrowed the garden centre. So I'm going to have it coming along parallel to the building for a little bit, then down, and the fence will run along the back here. The reason I've done that is, if I put the fire exit gate there, if I was to put it there, how would you open it? So I'll put it there somewhere, approximately, so it could be swung open in an emergency. But that's what I was going to do. That gate will get spray painted as well, by the way. So that's what's going to happen there. The pallets themselves look wonderful enough. And I'm going to try and get the fishing line on the gates once they're actually all dried. Wish me luck on that, and I'll try and get them along the front here on these pillars. I've got the pallets, as I say, getting dried, and I'm going to create 4 loads to put on them. 2 and 2, and I'll paint them a different colour, probably brown, to simulate maybe bags of compost, and then they'll go onto there. I'm saying brown, I've got red as well under there, so I've got all sorts of colours I could paint them in, and they'll get put on there. And on the advice of a friend of mine, I've put them together. There's a bit of a gap there, as you can see, so I'm going to have to actually glue them together like that. then that'll be that one done there. I haven't got any more people at the moment, but at a later date I will get people into here and get them into place. And B&Q's already gave this its seal of approval. I've tweeted it to them, so they like it, so that's a good thing. At least I know I've got something right. The only awkward thing I'm going to have to face is trying to get the fence wire, the mesh, on by putting it down the other way. It's not going to be easy. I just know that it's not going to be easy, but I'm going to have a go at it, because you want to get it looking exactly right. The alternative would be to glue everything together with the fence mesh, and then try and glue it into position, and that could be difficult. You've got to try and get gaps correct and everything. It isn't going to be easy to do it that way. I've got a corner brace there that's getting painted now, and then it comes down, I say that'll go there. And when the lamp that I've took off the now that was here previously with the old garden centre will sit just there now to provide illumination to go into the car park. So I'll crack on now. I'll get the rest of this all done, get some loads painted up, and they'll take a couple of days to dry. And I'll also try and get the first bit of the garden centre complete here, the fencing here. On this green tape here is 18 centimetres worth of the chain link fencing that's going to go up on here, and it'll go along to this point here. In the big shed right now I've got some posts like this, and I've got a second emergency exit gate that have been sprayed with grey on one side and will get sprayed with grey on the other side. Then, once they're dry, I'll super glue them, or glue them anyway, to the fencing, and then I'll try and put the fishing wire on the top, and I'll try and do something with it down here. Two other things I'm going to have to do is to build a small bit in here as a sort of way in and out, and I'll also build a small plant table that will sit probably here. And some of the scale model scenery daffodils that I've got a couple of them left. I'll actually stick on the plant table. They won't be in pots, but you won't see that because it'll actually be the back of the table that you'll see. But I'll keep it low enough so that the plants are visible. I've got a second pallet with a load on there, and I'll actually put another one just in there as well at some point to simulate loaded pallets. A spare bit of the fencing is going to be used to create the fence there, and also for the emergency gate. I've actually learnt my lesson from when I've done this before down in the depot area, and this time I'm doing it right. I'm taking my time with it. It isn't quite 100%, but look, nobody said this was easy. And then I've got to add a couple more people into here, but I'll get them from the Glenorthas Model Railway Show, and how I'll add them into the scene once the fence is up is I'll simply use tweezers and put them into position. So it's beginning to look quite good now, and by an incredible coincidence, the way that the Google Street View car, the shadow of it is, it's like it's the shadow of the racking there, so it's actually worked out quite well. While those fence posts are drying, I'll get some bits ready and I'll show you how I'm going to make the plant table. They say you can do it when you B&Q it, and I've managed to do it and B&Q'd it as well. That's the garden centre now complete, save for maybe just a couple of people to go into it someday. There's the bench with some flowers on it for people to pick up. And the chain link fencing is round. It has to be a wee bulge here. A, because of the way I've glued it together, but B, also because the angle of the fence, unfortunately, I didn't quite get it right, but it's not too obvious, so I should be able to get away with that. Now, I'm not going to be using the chain link fencing at the depot, so I'm finished with the chain link fencing, but I can tell you right now that this was not an easy job. It was a frustrating job at times. Trying to get the actual fence mesh peeled off the tape was not easy either, and it was quite frustrating. So give yourself plenty of time to be able to do it. 2 fire exits. We've got the main gates for forklift trucks, the porch entrance into the store from the garden centre, and the wee walkway along here that leads in onto the back of B&Q. As I've already said, through time I'll add a couple more pallets to the racking there, and I'll get a couple of people when I'm at the Glenrothes Model Railway Show and glue them into position in there. But that is a sort of representation of a B&Q garden centre as it would have looked in 1990. That is the actual B&Q logo that was used at the time. Okay, plants, compost and aggregates. I mean, the actual layout of the sign would have been a lot different to what we see here, but a bit of modeller's artistic licence has been used here to help create the scene. Later on in the programme, I'm going to be turning my attention to this area here and getting that done. And I'm also going to get a couple of screws put in there and there to stop this from leaning over. But before that, what we're going to do next is turn our attention to uncoupling. We'll get this parcels train moved out of the way. We'll get this moved out of the way, 60062, and I'm going to show you how to install a coupler. An uncoupler that won't cost you a penny. It is absolutely, you'll be amazed at just how good it really is. There's a gentleman here on YouTube called Steve Gillott that runs a layout, runs a couple of layouts, and one of them is based upon the West Coast fishing port of Mallaig at the northern end of the West Highland line. A very familiar location to quite a lot of people, and I've been up there myself. Steve Gillott has the same problem that I have, and it's a terminal layout. I've seen it layout model railway shows layouts have that are terminals, branch line terminuses in this case, and they use a hook to try and uncouple the locomotive from the stock. Now, I haven't got a hook, I've been using a cocktail stick, but Steve Gillott's come up with an idea, and I've posted a link to his video in the top right hand corner for you to go and check out. But what he's done is he's used something like this, but he's used a little bit thicker plastic, and he's actually put it down on the tracks somewhere, and what he's then done is used glue to glue it onto the tracks, on the sleepers, and he's been able to get the uncoupled that way. Now, as I say, he's using stuff that's a little bit thicker than this stuff, but I'm going to go and give it a shot anyway. I'm only going to do it on this one here, platform 5, and then I'm going to run a loco in with some stock and we'll see if it works. Do bear in mind, of course, that this is just me experimenting, so this may not go to plan. It's going to be done off camera, it may not go to plan. Everything, but I will give you the full details if it does go to plan. Wish me luck. There we go, so that's definitely worked there. If I just zoom it in, you can just see it there, and I'll put it there. So that's definitely worked. And in fact, if I actually leave that there now and get another loco to back onto the stock, it'll look like the locos are still coupled together. So I'll zoom that back out. So that's That's actually a pretty cheap way of doing it, but I must confess that wasn't the first attempt. That's actually the second attempt, and the second position for the second attempt. And what it basically has done is, it's just the plastic is bent in such a way, if I move the coach you can see there, I've glued it in such a way that it's got forms a sort of hump, and that's what's allowed the NEM couplers to actually push up there, and you can see there both of them are clear, allowing the locomotive to be uncoupled from the stock. As I say, I've just used little bits of plastic, but I would recommend that you use Steve Gillott's suggestion of a thicker plastic to do that with, which you've seen in the video there. And just out of shot there, I've just brought into position there 47550. It's now coupled up to the intercity stock, and you can see there that the 47844 is released from the stock. I mean, I could actually push it forward a little bit and you could see there. That's something else I must mention to you. Yes, it's another locomotive I've got. This is 47844, Derby and Derbyshire Chamber of Commerce and Industry, and she carries the Intercity Swallow livery, as she would have done at her naming in January 1991 at Derby Station, contrasting with the executive livery on 47406 behind. Just pulling the stock out of there, because I'm going to run this locomotive back out now to prove that the coupler is... Now, the track hasn't been properly cleaned here, so that's why it's taken a little bit of an effort, I believe, to go, but I will run other locos in here. There we go. So it just pushes down yet, and yeah, that's been super glued down, by the way, so anybody that's got kids of that, just watch what you're doing with super glue. I probably need to actually super glue. I've used double-sided plastic there and it's opened up a little bit, so I'll probably have to actually replace that again in the future. This was, as I say, an experiment to see how well it worked. But yeah, this is a Vitrains Class 47, and it was bought on eBay with 5 seconds to spare in the bidding, and she was DCC fitted. Very good locomotive, different light arrangements at both ends. Unfortunately, it doesn't have the aerials on it, but that was made clear to me. That was made clear to me when I was bidding for it, but doesn't detract from what is a very nice model indeed. She was actually involved in a collision 3 months after her naming, and she was later repaired, and she was later selected for the Class 57 conversion programme by Virgin Trains, but was ultimately scrapped as a result of issues found with the locomotive during the conversion programme. So unfortunately she didn't become a 57, and she was the plant maker of 57 was scrapped, and so was she. The only Class 47 to carry a Intercity tin nameplate. Those sorts of nameplates were usually reserved for HST power cars or AC electrics carrying the Intercity Swallow livery. So it's a very fine machine that is. Right, this experiment, as I say, it hasn't it obviously has proven that I've got it right, but there is also a lot more work needing to be done on it. I'm really needing to get a couple of locos in and test this, and then I think what I'll have to do eventually is actually replace this, rather than using the double-sided polythene that I've got there, plastic rather, I'll have to use a single-sided one. But at least it's an idea. It proves that such an idea is feasible, and I think what I'll do is I'll actually properly do it for the June update when I come to replace all the paving on here and redo these platform surfaces. The problem I'll have for platform 6 is actually where I'm going to position it, because of course we have the parcels train and the sleeper train coming in here, and the intercity charter train would get reversed into here sometimes. Not a big problem of course with the intercity charter train, because it would take up a similar length to the parcels train. The sleeper train is probably a little bit longer, so I'm going to have to work out where I'm going to put the uncoupling ramp here, more so because it'll actually be the class 08 shunter that'll be the one getting uncoupled. But a very good lesson there I've learnt there on how to do this, and as I say, I will redo that in the next couple of weeks and get that right, ready for testing again at the end of this video. But as I say, check out Steve Gillott's video that I've already linked to you in this video to see what you think of it. And you'll see a lot more of this locomotive in the future as well. 47844, Derby and Derbyshire Chamber of Commerce and Industry. That'll be the 4th Swallow locomotive on the layout, behind 47676, 47834, 47835, and she's also the highest numbered class 47 on the layout. She's the second highest numbered loco on the layout, behind 60062. Off camera I'm going to run another couple of locomotives in and see how it goes, and then I'll let you know what's happened. Right, I've tried again with another couple of locomotives. In this case it was 47346 and this one here 47712, Lady Diana Spencer, and you can just see there that it hasn't quite worked with 47712. Now the problem being that it's actually a bigger coupler that's on 47712. So again, I'm going to have to experiment, and I think what I'll probably have to do is actually buy the thicker plastic, or maybe see if I've got a spare file at home that's got thicker plastic on it. So I'm going to have to revert back to this method in the meantime. But it certainly works with the NEM couplers that's fitted to the vast majority of my fleet. So it is a lesson, and I've learnt the idea works in theory. It just needs slight adjustments. But as I say, we'll do more of that for the June update when I'm redoing these platforms here. I have actually got the bits in stock ready for redoing the platforms. Right, well, we've experimented with couplers. We've built most of a garden centre. I've got to add the finishing touches after the Glenrothes Model Railway show. So we're now going to go back and look at something else that we carried on with in the that we were doing in the update last month, and that's finishing off the retail park scene. This is where we're going to do the rest of the retail park, and I'll have to get the appropriate retail car park scene. We've already got to find one here, which is already mentioned to you. It's taken from the St Nicholas Gate retail park in Carlisle, and as you maybe noticed earlier on in the programme, I had difficulties trying to get the right angle for the car park here, so I'm going to go up and have a look at it again, and there's going to be new ink cartridge in the printer as well. Unless I find a different scene, it could still look much better. Before we do that, a little change has just been done in here, and I'll zoom in. I found that lady, I was looking for her, because when I got rid of an old bench, she was sitting on it and I lost her. Well, there she is, I've found her now. So she's sitting on that bench there. I'll be putting a second bench into this scene, probably sitting in front of Halford's. But what's got to happen is, these lamp posts are coming out, only one will be replaced. These bollards will come out temporarily, this wall will come off, and the wall will go back on. I've got it here, and if it doesn't go back on, I've got a replacement I could build to put back on. And we've got to work out about the steps here, and it may be that I've got to just make it as a ramp. That's what's going to come off, and we're going to do the same as we've done down here and make it all paving slabs. Now while you're doing, while I'm away to go and get the bits, could you please go and check out Oxley Central here on YouTube. Please give him a check out. And also Shrewford, which is where I got the idea from for using the Google Street View images. Right, I'll go and get new back scenes printed out, and then we'll look at where we are. That's the first bit in position, and what I've decided to do is put it on this left side rather than towards the B&Q side, and I've cut off the bit that was showing the pink on it, and I'll try and rearrange that with a vehicle there in the future from the same retail park. But it gives you a good idea, as you could see there and there, that we've got a little walkway along the front here, and that little walkway there will provide a good basis for the bollards going back in. I've took up the bollards now, and I've took up the lamp post, and as I already said previously, I'm only going to put the one lamp post back in. That'll sit there. The bollards will stay in place because the other lamp post won't be needed now, and it's going to form one of the lamp posts on the station area. I need to now go and cut the template, or shape a template, to then cut the section that's going to go here, and I'll probably get it up to this point here where the steps are, and then make the rest so that we can get the paving all done. So that's my next task that I'm going to do. My last shout outs in this video, well, they're going to go to a music duo who perform on cruise ships called Gemini. You'll look for them on Instagram, Gemini Music Duo. James and Nina, I think, are the name of the couple who are that duo. And staying back on model railways, check out Jeffrey Lane, spelt Jeffrey, Jeffrey Lane, on YouTube and Facebook. Go and check him out as well, please. Just be glad I don't do wallpapering, folks. I accept that these don't match here, but I'm going to have to just live with that. But what I will do in the future is I'll actually get a sign made up with St Nicholas Gate Retail Park with the names of the retailers on it, and I'll put it there to disguise that join. But that's that there, that's it done. And I'm going to call it a day here for this update, the May update, because I've gave you about an hour's worth of content, so that'll do for this month. In future, I'll be putting some more people in here, a bench and some litter bins as well. Next month, I'll be focusing on doing platforms 5 and 6 here. We'll be putting new concrete strip down here, resurfacing these platforms, same surface but resurfaced. And we'll be installing another uncoupler here as well. I'll be getting some stuff at the Glenrothes Model Railway Show, which is taking place at the Cornix, at the Temple Hall Community Centre, sorry, in Kirkcaldy. And if you're there and you see me, come over and say hello. It'll be nice to chat to you for a couple of minutes. And indeed, the Glenrothes Model Railway Show will be the next video on this channel, and then I'll be back in June with some more videos. Please enjoy the other people who have suggested to you throughout this video, and I look forward to your company next time. In the meantime, please, thank you very much for watching. Do take care of yourselves and enjoy your layouts. We'll see you soon. Goodbye for now.